Today is an Inmotion RS Blue Haze limited edition. They only made 70 of these. I can't even believe it's in my business. It is one of those moments where you are just shocked to see something this fantastic. We are the Inmotion service center for the area, so that helps too. But he wanted new tires, replace the brake calipers, replace the brake handles because they're a little messed up from crashing. Replacing the side covers. We already changed this one. I haven't put them on. He's going to wrap it apparently, so he didn't want the reflectors, even though they give those reflectors and stickers in the box, a bunch of them, from what I was told. We're going to replace the rotors because those are bent. The shocks he's going to leave, so we're going to take it all apart and do that. I've already unwrapped some of the cable. I need to finish that, so we'll just go through the motions of me doing this. Probably going to be multi kind of part thing. You'll see I'll have to work on this tonight too, just because my schedule with other customers that are coming into the business today. So I'm going to start this, and we're going to redo the brakes, fix everything up, and make it like new again because it needs some love. It's got 748 miles, I believe, on it. So it's about the time when service is. Hyper scooters usually eat through brake pads about every 500 miles. Could have put better tires on. They just went with the stock ones because I don't think they know. We sell tires on our site that are much better. So that way when you hit curves, it drives a lot better. I can also put dual piston nut brakes on these. I've done it for customers. Brakes 1,000 times better. We just use the same brake handles because it has regenerative braking. But there are different brake handles on the market with 3-pin connectors that allow you to have the proper regenerative brakes that are designed for this unit. So unlike the other ones where it's done in the controllers and everything else, Inmotion does it a little different. So we're gonna start on this. So we have to do the quick disconnect, brake caliper off, fender off, just for safety reasons. But working on hyper scooters is always fun. We're going to bead seal the tires too. It's an extra preventative thing I like to do. That way the scooter won't just leak as much air out of the side of the tire due to the temperature changing in the aluminum rims. I'm also going to waterproof up his seal here with some silicone so his motor's a little bit more waterproof. So, take that off, do that. All right, so this rotor's real bent. These caps come off. Usually I probably have to use a flathead because they don't really come off easy. Let's see how this quick disconnect goes. Sometimes it works out real easy. I see a lot of corrosion on the outside thing, so we'll probably just make sure that's cleaned up some and the rubber gasket is on there. But these come off so nice compared to Nami, any other scooter I've really worked on in the hybrid scooter world. So nope, here's my phone, but so nothing important. It's a problem running your business. Sometimes things don't stop. All right, so take those off safely. Tires here. I'm pretty sure it's the size I think it is, but I could be wrong. Most of these are usually 21. Yeah, it's 21. Really depends. Let's see how loose this is. Oh, it's actually pretty tight. Put some pressure on the scooter in this. Holy cow. All right, so there's also washers we have to pop out of there that kind of hold it on. So at least it was tight. The one Inmotion I worked on recently, both of the rotors were loose. All right, Hope this thing doesn't fall forward. I'm praying to God it doesn't. Looks like it's pretty well balanced. So, gotta pop these. Braces off. And this wheel should just fall. You can already kind of see it happening. All right. Oh, see, the scooter did move a little and rocked like I thought it would. Make sure it doesn't tip. Move it back on stand a little. All right. So, we've taken the tire off. Now, we're gonna put the tire on. Okay, so they use 3mm hex here. I don't like this. I'm gonna switch these out to torque. I'm gonna replace all these screws. Replace some hardware. You can see a lot of rust. We are in Wisconsin, so he maybe drove this in the salt. So I just try to get those all loose, so that way I can use a power tool without stripping them. A lot of corrosion there. All right, we're also gonna clean this up, and we're gonna shoot silicone in here. It helps water from getting inside the motor and stuff. It should have been done from the factory, but that's what you really want done. So we're gonna do that too. Watch this spring, probably adjust this down to keep this safer more, but I'm gonna have to clean this all up with rubbing alcohol and a rag, so that way things adhere properly and there's not all this dirt. So, but yeah, obviously there's these mounting screws. That's so when you put the motor in and you slide it up, that those are in there, the mounting, not screws, washers. All right, so now we're gonna remove the tire and then put the new one on and bead seal it. All right, so first we have to break the bead. So that's kind of the hardest part sometimes. It takes a couple tire levers. See, we can't pop it yet, but we gotta pop that bead off. Not having any luck. Takes a little bit of strength sometimes. And we popped it. Okay, see, you have to pop the bead. If we don't pop the bead, we're not gonna get this fucking tire off, okay? Bead is sealed on the other side. Okay, it's usually easier once you get one side done, but it is always not that way. This is the most difficult part, in my opinion. Because if I don't get this bead off, I'm not gonna be able to remove the tire. So, it takes a couple tries. Maybe a third tire lever. Push with my hand, maybe. Just can't break that bead. And we broke it. Alright. So now we got off. This tire, you can see he drove it when it was flat. You can totally tell. Alright. So, bead has been popped. Next trick. Once we have that, it's all about how the tire levers go under. Okay? Sometimes it feels like you're manhandling it. Don't be too scared. It's all about putting tire irons everywhere and popping it. So we'll pop the top two, then we'll pop the side one, and you'll watch the tire just mystically come off. So, hardest part is breaking the bead on a lot of these tires. Oh yeah, look at all that rubber chunks coming out of there. Shows you they've been driving it flat for a while, it looks like. Come on, give me the leverage. All right. But normally, there should not just be a huge stack of rubber dust. He was driving this tire. Oh, it's a huge bunch inside the tire too. Holy Toledo, he was riding on this flat for a hot minute. Surprised the tire walls didn't come out. Holy cow, I'm probably gonna have to clean up a little bit of this mess before I proceed. But yeah, now we're gonna put the tire on. Oh, you can see all the corrosion here and the paint coming off, chipping. I'll try to clean it up with rubbing alcohol, but wow, he was just driving this anywhere, so. Customer wanted stock CST tires. That's what they requested. Obviously make sure you know the direction of the tire because they are directional. It's kind of important. You know, they only go one way. The rotation goes one way. You can kind of look, you know, with the arrows pointing. So obviously this is the right side because the rotor is on the left side of the wheel. So what we're gonna do is first you just push this over it. Usually just pops right on. Okay, this is where the tricky part comes into play. The zip tie method. Well, the zip ties are a little too small for this, so we're gonna have to squeeze a little first. And do that. So what we're doing is we're trying to crush the tire here so it can tuck into the rim so we can have it. Wow, why is there a burn mark in there? Probably from the rubber friction. Pretty wild. But as you can see, once I get the first one, more zip ties, the easier it can be to get on. I can do 3. I'm gonna do 4 on this one if I can get them on. Just because the more I can crush this tire into the radial shape, the easier it will be to put on. This is kind of the trick. See how we crush the tire now? So it can sit down into the side of the rim. Some people keep zip tying. My experience has taught me elsewise. So, and see how it popped up into the rim pretty much like that. And then you sneak a tire lever in there, and literally, boom. That's how you do it, guys. That is the trick. The method that people argue with, say, I've watched people install these things 1,000 other ways and destroy everything on the tire. All right, we're gonna use bolt cutters so we don't wreck anything. Cut the zip ties. Maybe I'll show the front wheel. I'll maybe record it, but I'll include it in the video. You can see how long I want to make this. All right, now we have to kind of pop up the tire bead from what we did. So we're gonna stretch the tire up, try to get in there, try to pull the bead up. All right. Well, you can see the bead wasn't on, pulled up. So hold on here. I pulled it up on the bottom. It's kind of a problem. Takes a second because we're trying to work out that crushing that we did to the tires. All right. So on this side, you can kind of see it's kind of low. Just put that in there, and boom. Okay. I hopefully don't have to use a bead blaster. Not really sure. It looks like it's sealing on pretty well, but what I'd like to do is the bead sealer. So, kind of be messy, but I think we're gonna go straight to the bead sealer because this looks like it's pretty much on the bead. And I don't think I'm gonna have to use the air cannon. If I do, I do. Bead sealer will last. But I like just to do bead sealer on these hyper scooters. So, this is how I do it. And I just kind of paint it in there. And we're gonna work our way around. And obviously the spots where I didn't get it because the lever was there, I go back and I paint a little in. You don't have to be crazy with this stuff, but it really helps. So we're just going to show you a portion of this. You don't have to sit here and watch me do both sides, and then we'll come back, but it's that easy. This is how I do it. And you can kind of see the bead sealer kind of pop out some. That way too, you can see if you have a bead leak too. So, but yeah, this is what I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to do the other side, and then when we get back, we'll show you when I'm just airing it up to see if the bead pops. It should. These CST tires don't have as much issues. If we're using aftermarket tires. Usually I use an air cannon, so. But you keep doing that all the way around. Once you finish up that, you get it. We're gonna put air in, and then we'll show you how that goes down. So we're back. We're gonna try after bead sealing it. If it's just gonna pop on. I pray it just does. Sometimes it's that easy. See it pop? You just heard it. Like I said, these tires are a little bit more gracious, but then we're gonna clean up the extra bead sealer. The bead sealer then is gonna tell us if we have anything leaking from the rim. It's actually kind of why I like this stuff. Because then we can double verify our work, make sure the bead wasn't damaged or defective tire. And then we're gonna clean this side off. But this is liquid rubber that gets in between and fills in imperfections in the tires and then seals them on extra good so they don't leak air as frequently. So I like putting it on all hyper scooters. Peace of mind. I've had people with issues with hyper scooters having issues with the bead falling off and things like that, and this was the solution. So I do this now to almost every single one. Normally you'll see little air bubbles right there popping out of the crevice here and this little edge between the rim and the tire. If you see those bubbles, that means you either got a bad rim, bad something. I just had a NAMI in here the other day, tried to do the tire, had a cracked rim, and that's really why it was leaking air. So you don't always know. Now we're gonna fill this up with silicone because this should be. It makes extra waterproof, and then just better for the motor. Okay, this is gonna be messy. I've already cleaned this with rubbing alcohol, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot a bunch of silicone in there. And then what we do is we try to get on also the top. So I flex this down. We'll clean this up after, don't you worry. Make sure you don't get any in the axle. I mean, the bearing there. But what we're doing is we're trying to prevent water from getting in here and causing corrosion and rusting the motor out, because that's one of the main entrances that's not really sealed. And this guy seems to be driving it in a bunch of crazy ass weather. So I'm just covering up the spring too, up to the rubber shrink wrap. And we'd always just put a little extra, and then what I'm going to try to do is try to push it in, even though I shot some in there already, just in case there's any air bubbles. And what this is going to do is make it a lot more waterproof, more durable, give them some extra life out of the motors. I thought they were doing this at the factory. I remember seeing pictures, but guess not. So I do that on all my scooters too. Been doing it for years. Never had any problems. If anything, I've had better success rate. Because then that way you can deal with the elements and moisture and stuff isn't getting in there. So we just kind of move this around. You know, make sure you got silicone in enough of the spots where when it dries, it'll be thick and strong. I like using Harbor Freight stuff. It's made in America too, just for if everyone cares. But America makes the best adhesives. We always have. And then boom. So like I said, I'm just making sure the spring is covered up all the way. Things like that, give it some extra corrosion protection. And then we'll kind of clean this up afterwards. And then that's the basis of that. I highly recommend you doing that to your motors. You won't regret it. More waterproof ability. Should have been done from the factory. But yeah, now we're gonna put on rotors, or rotor, and then we're gonna put the back wheel on, and then we're gonna go from there. And then we will see. Gotta fix the brakes, we're gonna replace those. That's not too hard. Run the brake line through. But I'm probably, since you just use stock brakes, we don't have to change the brake line. We're just gonna reuse the rear one and bleed the brakes. He destroyed them because of the heavy use. And just, yeah, like I said, hyper scooters don't last that long with heavy use. But yeah, to the back. So it's rotor time. I use Loctite, 243. It's self-priming, so that way if there's any oil in there or any gunk, I'd rather have this be tight. Maybe put a little too much Loctite, but that is better than this hyper scooter having this fly off at hyper speeds. And we will hand tighten all these at the end. But you have to use Loctite. I've already seen these come in loose. Yeah, I don't know if it's from heavy use, but that should not happen. All right, so I made a few maybe tight. Oh no, see? And I always try to make them like hand tightness, where it's pretty snug. Ooh. Getting that, but, so just do that. We might have to true the rotor if the surface area isn't as flat, but usually brand new rotors, it's not too much of an issue. I'm hoping that these were machined right. I've had issues with everything. I just had a scooter the other day. I had to replace the rotor brand new because it was not machined properly. So we're just double checking all these with the Wera. Now it's on. Now we're gonna put these back on. Obviously you wanna put them the right way, depending upon how the motor goes, but the motor pretty much goes like this. So these are obviously going that side down. And then there's another one. You put that on, wherever that ran off to. And those get pointed down. Okay, like so. Now we're gonna put the wheel on. Rear wheel install. Loctite 243, need that. Obviously, 2 spacers, bolts. Not too much worried about this brake caliper because we're replacing it. So, we have to, obviously the wire gets fished through the top here. So make sure you have that prepared. And usually they'll line up the axles. They're pretty sneaky. All right, what I like about this is it has these washers in there that'll hold this up till we get everything set. Voila. Notice the direction of the tire. Having the scooter fall back now because the wheel's on, so let me adjust that a little. This thing's a beast. All right, rear wheel's on. Let's put some silicone on the tire. All right, anyways, now that we have that, we're going to Loctite the crap out of these because someone's life's on the line and I take that shit serious. So we got push up on the tire, and I always like to hand turn them in first. Everything hand turn. Can maybe use a ratchet slowly, but even the power ratchet here, I'm just making it slightly snug, making sure stuff looks square. So when you're doing this down here, and we're trying to line this up, you'll notice that you'll pull this up. I don't really have a good view, but you shouldn't need it. But like I said, you just want to make sure that this wheel is pulled up promptly and tight. It is, because I got the one side. Yeah, all right. And since it's a hyper scooter and we don't want any issues, always kind of give it a few extra tightening tugs out of cautious. Loctite should do most of the work. Those are pretty snug, not too concerned. Obviously you have to put the connector through, connect that back up. Don't really need to show that because it's not that exciting. I'm gonna put the black caps back on, but we silicone that back now. That makes me feel so much better about that motor, knowing now stuff isn't gonna get it. And these look a lot rounder than his stock CST tires, so it's kind of interesting. Maybe they modified them, but they look a lot different. Do they say CST? Yeah, these are CST, so I mean, look how flat the tire looks. And then when it's on the scooter, you know, so. But now we're gonna go to brake caliper. I wanna show you how we do that. So here's the plug side. There's an arrow and an arrow. Match them up, be very gentle. Make sure this orange gasket is on there. If it's not, it's bad. So what we're gonna do then is take our time. See, it'll flow in nice and smooth. And then you're gonna tighten it. Make this snug as you can. There's 2 white marks, shows from the factory. I always go a little bit tighter past the factory on the few I've done. But that's what you wanna do. So we're gonna use our Harbor Freight meme tool, T30, because it has security bit. like I said, instead of running this brake wire that's still good because we'll rebleed them, I'm going to take this off so that way I don't have to run that all the way through, because the stock brakes that they gave me don't have ends that will fit through there. So this is the new plastic piece we're putting on the sides because the customer said they were going to wrap the scooter. So we're going to take off the original brake caliper first of the new one, because we're replacing the brake handles, and he went all stock, so that's his decision. I just did whatever the customer tells me to do. I would have recommended other things if they would have talked to me beforehand, but all right. So we're going to take this off, and like I said, it's T30 security bit. We can only do this because the brakes are identical. He just went with stock stuff off the Inmotion site, or Roros, or who knows. All right, so dripping some mineral oil, whoop-de-doo. If I can get this back in there. You know, take your time so you don't cross thread. It's easy to cross thread on aluminum with steel. Always take your time. All right, we got a little bit of mineral oil around, but like I said, we're going to bleed these brakes. So that's what we're going to do after this. We'll just show this just for funsies. So we took these off. There's just 2 screws behind the reflectors. It was nothing like next level by any means. Got to put the 2 3mm hex in them, so it's nothing crazy. I just wanted to show this just in case someone has questions on where stuff is. So it's behind those stickers. They give you a bunch in the box and reflectors, but he bought new side pieces because his were all scuffed up. So that's what he decided to do. Some adhesive on there. Maybe I'll replace that screw, but these are the stock ones. So that's all you do. Put that in, boom, bada bang, and side pieces are on, but we're replacing all these all around. So we have to disconnect this. If you're smart, you have already unclipped it here because it pulls on the wire. It's well known. See, you know, it's gonna be interesting. Rubber seal still there. A lot of dirt just came out. We'll make sure there's no dirt goes back in there. Try to keep that contacts clean. Nothing looks burnt. Phenomenal. Let's take off the fender. All right, let's get that out of the way. It's fragile. Let's not break it, step on it, do anything stupid. All right, just like before, you can see these. Just pop them off. Pretty easy. It's 21 mil. We're gonna go to the other side, take the brake caliper off. So this brake handle and caliper, we're taking off completely and just replacing. And give new hardware. Just like on the other side, there's one of these little clips that you have to undo. I redid the other one beforehand and just didn't really show you, just because it's kind of a waste of time and it's common sense, but you know, common sense isn't common. This actually might work better with the power ratchet. Can fit in there nicer. Sometimes a tool makes the job. All right, make sure you don't lose that. I usually take this off and put it in my dish of screws. All right, now I have to take these off. It's 21 mil. The scooter's probably gonna fall backwards, so we're gonna try and move it forwards a little. Just because my gut is telling me from the last time, it's a lot of weight with the motor. We're gonna be pulling that off, so no idea how smooth this is gonna go. Might be easy, might be real difficult. Oh, that's pretty easy. It's always scary. No thread lock or nothing, really. And there's another clip too for the motor harness over here on the back side that I just realized and almost forgot. So make sure you don't forget that clip. It's on the other side, back side of the motor. So that is on the other side. Sorry about that. All right, as we know before, it's not just gonna fall because of those washers, but we're gonna pop one out on one side you can't see right now. It comes out. Come on. All right, voila, you can see. So, I'm gonna go down here, show you a little closer. So, I'm just walking this off. See? Make sure my hand's on the way. All right, so the motor should just fall. I remember it being extra tight on the front, so we might have to loosen the shock, from my understanding, to pull this apart. Otherwise, yeah, it just won't move. So I'm not really sure what's gonna happen here, because most of the time it works out, and then other times it doesn't. So this is 2.5 mil. One side is the screw side and one side is not. So see, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing this because then it spreads out the arms a little. It usually allows the wheel to fall. It's close. Maybe a little bit more loosening, but a bunch more is not going to do much. So, people bothering the shit out of me. But yeah. But anyways, another customer that I just helped today fixed his Wolf Warrior X, put new bearings in the front. Maybe the video will be posted. All right, so we're in a dilemma. I know some people might not agree with this, but I'm gonna rubber mallet this beast. Just on the side axle. And then, you see, I'm just doing light taps. I'm not trying to go out of town. All right, good. Scooter didn't fall. Got it off. Now we're gonna do the front wheel and we will move forward. All right, so we're gonna take this rotor off. This is the front wheel. I always like to loosen these first because I don't want the power ratchet stripping them out. Oh, see, that one was loose. Oh, that one's really loose. This is stock. That's really safe. All right, off. Bent, thick. All right, I mean, look at this old brake caliper. How far he used the pads. Just dead. Like, holy cow. Could maybe just did the pads and not the whole brake calipers, but whatever. You can see there's actually Loctite on this one. This one's not chipping all the paint. I always check kind of the motor screws too. I should have checked the other one, but I always just like to make sure these are snug over time. Usually Inmotion's pretty good. Nami has a lot of problems. All the Namis usually come in and I'm like, oh, see, that one's kind of loose. See? We don't want those to come loose. No, I'm paranoid. I'm going to check the other side. It's T25. See some corrosion on this one. Whoop, hit that. All right, those are all snug. All right. I cleaned this off with rubbing alcohol already, so then that way we can silicone it. As we saw with the back wheel, it's going to be a pain to take off the original bead. It is just a pain. Just take your time. Like I said, I have a padded floor. Oh, look at that. That popped off real easy. Well, we got lucky on one side. So, that's pretty cool. So I have a padded floor so I don't mess up my nice, beautiful maple hardwood floors. So this one's being more radically difficult. Come on. Looks like it's coming. Oh, popped. All right. Well, that worked a lot nicer. Obviously, side with not the wire. We're gonna get our tire levers in here. I like to put 3 in on these bigger tires. Try to not mess up the rim. And then you just work your way around. These are motorcycle tire levers. I've owned these ones for years. I'm really surprised they haven't broke or anything. I always hear horror stories at bike shops. Alright. Somehow the bead popped back on the other side. Oh, there it is. Alright, see how it's loose now? You should just be able to pull it out. I like to use a tire lever. And then just be gentle. Alright. Didn't really nick it up. Little, but it happens sometimes. It's kind of rough. Alright. And also too, the paint and corrosion and him driving this a bunch. Once again, remember, tires are directional. Obviously the arrow points front. So rotor's left side. Obviously like so. You know what I mean? Rotor's here, tires here. Same thing again. We're gonna push this on. These push on pretty easy. Sometimes it's kind of a pain. Like PMT tires or a few others. I'll show you the other method here where I come from the back side like this, and then I just like kind of pop it over. All right. Next thing is zip ties. These are a little short, but I can make them work after the first crushing. So we're gonna crush this tire. Some of these tires are too hard sometimes to crush, and I need a second pair of hands. But today, my hand strength is up. What we're doing again is crushing the tire, so then that way the orientation of it can fit in the bead. Otherwise, we can't stretch the tire around safely without wrecking everything. Otherwise, you will struggle and struggle. The zip tie method is the way to go. So I'm crushing it. See that? That's what you want to do. Some people zip tie around the whole tire. I don't really like that. Oh, there's a staple in this zip tie. That's great. Let's get that out of there. Oh, come on. Always something. Crush it. Zip tie it. I usually can do it with 4. I tuck it into the tire here, and then you just kind of use tire levers to pop it down in there. So see, I pop the bead in there. You can see that. And then I work my tire levers around. I can get this bead over here. Yeah, see, that's what I needed. Wasn't positioned well enough. Sometimes you have to like do that, see? Hold this tire lever pressure, and boom. Bead seal this again, just cause this tire last time popped on the bead pretty easy. Unlike PMT where I have to use the air cannon. So let's grab the needle nose, make this easier. But a lot of people bring me their scooters because I do this every day. So I have a lot more experience. So like I said, we're gonna pop the speed up. We did on the other one. And you can see kind of more, see how it's down here, not even. So we're gonna try to even that up. Stretch this up. And that's just from us putting the zip ties on. And see, in that way. But we'll bead seal it. Show you that again, I guess. And then hopefully the tire pops on the bead. But you can kind of see how it's set here, but not set here. So that's why I kind of was stretching it, but I got to bead seal it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're just going to show you a little bit of the bead sealing again, not too much because it's kind of time consuming, but let's kind of do this again. The bead sealer is kind of low. Gotta buy some more, and then paint it in. Clamp the rim after, don't worry. And then obviously the spot where I had the tire iron, I'm sitting here and redoing that. So we're gonna do both sides, and then we'll shoot air in and we'll show you that. So we're back after bead sealing everything. It's kind of a mess. You hear the bead pop, both sides. All right, we gotta clean up this big mess from the bead sealer. But like again, the reason I like doing this is now we can see if it's leaking from the bead at all. So as long as you clean this up, it's just liquid rubber. All right, you can see kind of a mess on that side. Not too bad on this side. I like to rub it all around the crevice so that way I can check it. I do this on all hyper scooters. It is peace of mind, and then I'm not worried about the bead popping off the rim. We do not want that happening at high speeds, right? So you let that kind of dry up, kind of check it. As you can see here, it'll start just rubbing off, you know, because it's liquid rubber. And boom, bead sealer. I love this stuff. This saved me with so many scooters where I was having issues with the bead, where they drive on the rim. But like I was saying before, you'll see little air bubbles popping up around the edges, you know, bubbling from the bead sealer, and then that way you can see if something messed up with the rim. Notice that on a Nami recently and some other scooters I've done, so that helps. But yeah, that is the basis. You can see it just wipes right off, cleans real well, and we're done. We're gonna install it on the front. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna do the silicone again, and then we're gonna do the rotor again. So, and then we're done. And we'll reinstall it. And we just gotta do the brakes, which we'll probably do this evening. All right, Loctite 243. We're gonna fill up all these holes. I mean, I'm a little generous, but it's a hyper scooter. I don't want this shit flying off. If I have to work on it in the future, I'll just heat it up with a heat gun, warm it up, loosen it. So, but it's a low torque gun. Don't do this normally, be careful. This is low torque, so I'm not too concerned. It's kind of designed for this. It's not going to put out so much and overstrip it. This gun has issues even with the normal bolts coming off. So I use it more for installing. Alright. And afterwards, because we're paranoid, we're going to check all these. See, that had a little bit of snugness. Well, that had a lot. See what I mean? How the torque gun doesn't over torque. But we want to make these snug tightness, because we don't want it coming undone. Alright, clean up a little bit of Loctite, because I put a little too much on that one, which isn't bad. But we don't want that flying around. Make sure none of these are chipped up. Normally if I do, I'll touch up paint, but these look fantastic, so that way they don't rust. And then we're going to show you this part. So, I already cleaned this off with rubbing alcohol. But what we're going to do is shoot silicone in there. Bend this wire down. And you can't really see too much. I'm trying to get a good camera view for you. Alright, and then I'm going to push that into that hole there to fill that in so water can't get in there. Put it all around the coil. And then when we're doing this, we got to push that in so there's no air bubbles. This might look primitive, but it really helps in the longevity of the motor. It keeps water out, keeps everything else out. And what we're trying to do is seal it all the way up to the shrink wrap and cover the spring, so that way water can't penetrate down in through this hole. And it usually does pretty good, because when I pinch it this way and when we tighten it in to the motor onto the rim, I mean not the motor to the rim, I'm talking about when we put the axle on this will kind of shift a lot, and then the stuff will bulge properly. But always just try to make sure there's no air pockets in here. And then afterwards, kind of clean up your mess, smooth out stuff, make it look pretty if you want. I'm not always too concerned. I'm more about practicality. But yeah, and then that's good, because then it fills in that little ridge there in the axle that they put for the motor wire, and then it prevents that from having issues. So that's what we're going to show, and then we will mount this. So, but now we have that all ready, bead sealed, all set up. Reattach it to the front, and then we gotta do the brakes, and then we're done. We are going to install the front wheel. Remember when we had to kind of pound this out to get it out? From prior experience on other Emotions, I realized that I have to also take off this. So we're going to loosen this control arm to give us more room to expand. We'll probably re-thread lock each side. Ooh, that one was really loose. I mean, I know that it goes through and pulls through as a piece, and this is the only side, but that seems a little loose. But we'll re-thread lock that. But now, kind of push that through, create a gap. Obviously there's bearings in there. So this will make it a lot easier. Make sure you have your Loctite. I always use 243. So, the fun part, lining this stuff up. But with this extra gap, way easier. So, we'll put these washers up in there that'll kind of hold everything in place temporarily while we tighten up that back axle. I mean, not axle, control arm. Pretty sure the wheel should rest now. Now the scooter's kind of tipping forward, so I want to adjust it back a little. The weight of the entire thing, because it's such a beast. All right, so first things first, let's take out this bad boy. And it has some old blue on it, but I always feel like when they put that pre-done stuff on the factory, it's not as good as real shit. All right, a little too much there. Wipe a little off, but be real, it's kind of an important piece that you don't really want coming loose. So I'll probably check the back one just for good measure. Since the scooter's in here, I usually try to go over everything for the person. You're not just paying for the job. I'm paying for look over a bunch of nuts, bolts, make sure nothing came loose, nothing from the factory's loose. All right, that seems snug. I don't want to over tighten it, but I just work on this shit for a living, so you kind of get it. So remember, there's those loops for the cable that we have to reattach. There's one low on the other side, and then there was one that was higher up that was attached right here to this little bolt. You know, something like this was going on, you know. So let's line these up first. There should be an arrow somewhere, but when you find that arrow, you match it to the other arrow. Make sure, obviously, like before, that orange O-ring is in there, because if you don't have the orange O-ring, can't really see it from how I'm recording right now, but I'm just connecting this right now so I have an idea, so when I route everything. Okay, so I lock this up. Probably better than the original because there was no real thread lock. So got to push it up all the way. See how I'm not in there? So what we got to do is make sure this is pushed up and then tighten it. And then that way it'll pop that washer into place. And then you're pretty golden. Same for the other side. Always, always, always hand turn as far as you can. It's always playing it safe. It's not a bad thing. I'm going to push up just to make sure. Extra little tightness for good measure. It is a hyper scooter. We do not want this coming loose. All right. So we'll bring you to the other side here. Lighting's probably not the best right now because it is nighttime. I apologize. All right, so there's one on the bottom that keeps it away from the tire. You have to find that, match that down here, right over here. Do that. Same other clip, the other one, and it went right here, which I don't really understand. But I think it probably pulls the wire up higher to give it more slack. But, oh no, all right, it was actually on the other side here. It's actually down low, it's not high up. It's kind of how I was seeing this, so. Should probably show you from the other angle. So, when we're actually looking here, it's probably better lighting. We'll zoom in here. There's one here, just if you forget, and then the other is down here. So you put those in. I'm not really going to show you because I'm trying to waste time. I'm going to put the fender on. I'm going to put the new brake caliper on. We'll show you that. And after we put the new brake caliper on, I'm going to have to bleed the back brakes, and we'll show that too. Just to show you, the screws there. And then the other one is right here. So, no idea if you saw that, but that's where it's at. So, since we're just installing stock brakes, it's gonna be pretty easy. Normally, we'd be running them, usually the front brakes on this, most of the time they come pre-set up, so you don't really have to bleed them. Just the back we're gonna have to bleed. So, this is just 4 mil. Yeah. Whoops. All right. So I didn't unplug it yet because I just didn't want to fall to the ground. All right. Comes through. Old brakes. Let's see how. Whoa. Toasted. Had some life left. Not as bad as the back, but holy Toledo. All right. Since we got all new fresh stuff, this is easy to run through because of how they have it. I'm not really going to show you how to cable wrap because it's not that exciting. It's pretty self-explanatory. So first things first, let's get this back to where this was. Oh, come on. Thread in there. I always like to kind of hand thread. I should have grabbed an Allen wrench, but I did not. I have no idea where my floor is. Oh, it's over here. So. So you kind of had them placed right above his turn signal lights. I think these are kind of high. Maybe I hit it. We'll just kind of match his other side. But these scooters are fun to work on. I always enjoy it. Take my time, probably more than I should, but to me, perfection or nothing. If you're not going to try your hardest, why try it all, right? All right, so not really sure if you can see this, but we're going to go down And it just goes through here. And once it's through, I'm gonna unshank this so it's not as wound up. And then I'll show some of the cable wrapping maybe, so you just have an idea. So you make sure you skip the light and some of the other stuff. But you can kind of do what you want too, so. But now we're gonna have to bleed the back brakes. We're gonna show that because actually I'm gonna have to undo, well, not the brake line, but first we'll see if we have to bleed them. I'm pretty sure I will, because I know there's air in the line. And we're just gonna show that. Just because I disconnected it when I changed out the brake caliper, because I didn't need to rerun the whole new brake line. So we're just gonna bleed that. That way it'll be perfection. The front came pretty good. If it's not, I will bleed that too. But I have to check it first. So I'm gonna install that and then we'll go from there. So this is my version of the wire wrapping. Coming down, make sure you get this one. Then this one. I like to give this a little bit more slack and I do it on the back side. I like it that way. Just in case you need to change your headlight. Then this, and then protected it here. Usually it's pretty good here. That's usually what I do. Now we're going to show you how to put on the brake caliper. So I don't know if you're really going to be able to see this, but we'll try to show a little view here. So you line it up and center it the best you can. And the reason is after we pull the brake handle a couple times, we'll find out the true center. A lot of people will tell you you can grab the brake handle up front and do it, but I don't know. I've always lined it up this way, because then that way too you can kind of set the distance here for when the pads first compress. And the reason is too is we have such a tight tolerance right here between this and the rotor. See, we're not hearing any noise. We'll tighten those up one more in a second, but let's pump them a couple times. You see them nice and responsive. And we'll see they move. Rotor's brand new and true. Wow, look at that. That's pretty perfect. Don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but let's try the light down there. You can kind of see how it sits in there perfectly. You see there's light coming from both sides. It's the best I can really show you. So then that's done. Then we're going to show you side plastic pieces, because one of them I had to modify. Sorry about the lighting, it's nighttime. So these plastic piece, when this goes on here, this is supposed to sit flush. But you see when it sits flush, there's a huge gap right there. That's not cool. And now this is flush. And then the screw holes don't line up. So that's when it sits flush. It was sitting like this the whole time with the gap. You can see all the dirt and everything else you got in here. So, little crude, but I modified it and I sanded these two pieces. And what I had to do is take off a big chunk, probably, gosh, 1/4 of an inch down, 1/4 of an inch. And then now we have the proper fit. And you see that? That's the proper fit, like the other side. I did adjust this light down here too, because I didn't know if this little light down here was causing problems, which is 2.5 millimeter hex, if you do need to know. A little tidbit. Now we're gonna sneak this back in here, and now do you see that tight fit? All right, and then we have the tight fit up here. Wasn't doing that before, so that was very upsetting. And now look at that, nice and snug. Like I like it. Very happy. I just spent a lot of time modifying that. Fuck you, Inmotion. Whoever fucking did that shit, I hate you. And then look at this last screw in. It goes in. The holes were lined up. I didn't want to modify too much because I felt like if I took too much plastic off, you can't go back. You can always take off more. But boom, that looks way nicer. Old piece wasn't like that. So I'll make this clear. You even hit it. Who knows if that happened from it? But like, I'm letting you know, I think when I pulled this off, it wasn't flush. That's a bunch of bullshit. So, all right, but that's where we're sitting. Now, I'm pretty much almost done. Just gotta bleed the brakes. Okay, lighting sucks. Get over it. All right, 8 mil. Taking this off. Guarantee you, look at that. That crap job. It's not even on straight. Oh, it fucking broke, but we got new ones. So, before we go any farther, the tool you need. Gotta cut it far enough back so you don't cut into the metal. Okay. New piece for this. Push it in. Use the tool properly. Tighten this. And it goes in. It's an olive end. But that one's got a little rubber washer. The other one had one, so I'm just kind of copying. I have a ton of stuff, so I can just dig up from wherever. All right, cross washer that. All right, that's for next. Then let's remove this old brake handle. All right, unplug the bitch. So you want new brake handles, this is why we have to rebleed this. Actually, it's right here. God, I'm stupid. It's kind of a tight fit. Oh, I dropped the screw. And that rolled far. That rolled far. I'm stepping all sorts of stuff. Dremel for when I was working on that other crap. Breaking my golden rule about how I say a twist and everything. If I keep dropping this, it's too late. All right, so that BS is done. Can connect the cable if you want. It's super important, line it up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we have the olive end. We have that. This, back to my rule of hand twisting. So I'll strip something. And we're gonna have to bleed these brakes. So sometimes you'll start spinning the brake cable. So you have to spin it kind of loose in here. See, I'm spinning this with my hand. Just from experience of doing this. Otherwise, the brake cable starts twisting. Like it is right now. So then I'm going to work my way back. Twist a little. Get the cable kind of loose. I have no idea how far these go. I usually don't work on these zoom handles, but if I look at the other side, it looks very sufficient with how it was tightened. Let's do a little good for good measure. Will the brakes just work? Probably, because these have huge reservoirs. Oh, but that still needs to be bled. The customer might not notice, but I would. I almost feel like I should bleed the front too, but those came completely sealed, so like I don't. And this feels the same as the back. So, but it feels a little too soft. See, it goes too far. It's got some air in it. I mean, they kind of both go far back, but this one goes a little farther. So, I mean, I'm not going to bleed the front because they're straight from Inmotion. I think it would be right, but who knows. So, we'll change that out, bleed it, and then set the back brakes, and we're kind of done. So, I might do that in the morning, or we'll do it tonight yet. Okay, we're going to kind of show you. You put that piece in there for bleeding. I have to take out the bleed screw there. Then up top we have this set up already. The brake handle. So I didn't like show you everything, but this should be good enough. So, all right, let's see if we can get this filmed potentially. It's kind of tough. All right, so try to keep as much oil off of the thing, or mineral oil. I always wrap it up in a shop towel, kind of point it like this. I don't know the size I need. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I kind of forgot, so. Because the top is like custom from this one. So, kind of look at the threads. Hopefully this one turns in there. Nope. What thread was it? My gosh, I don't remember. Oh, it was this complex one. It's this tiny, thin one. I remember now. So you gotta find the right piece. As I know, I'm making kind of a mess. It's not too bad. All right. So normally you want to kind of tilt the scooter too as you're doing this, as I'm shooting the fluid up. And they're using different mineral oil than we use. But we're just gonna shoot it through. All right. Can have this at a standstill for a sec. So we see that. Then we work our way up here. You can see this. When it's a solid line like that, no air bubbles in it. It's what you want. Because the more line you have as we undo this, it's gonna get kind of tricky to put this all back in real quickly without losing some fluid, and we will lose some. That's just the name of the game. So I always try to put this on my thing, get it ready, set it down, try hopefully it doesn't fall, spin this, put my finger over it for a sec. That's one where, oops, see, you know what I mean? And try to put that in there, and try to go to town, as quick as you can. Try not to make a mess. We're gonna clean this all up with rubbing alcohol afterwards. All right. Last thing we gotta check is to make sure when we put that piston block in, that the pistons didn't extend too much, and they didn't. So we're okay. If you do, you have to push those metal pistons in if you need the clearance, because sometimes some of the pads are thicker than others. So once that's done, you can see up here, there's the air bubble that's slowly moving back. So what you do is you kink this and then you pull it off, which I can't really do with one hand, but that's what you do. You kink this and then it pulls off. Take that, put the screws in, and then put the pads back in, reline everything up, and that's like the basic simple brake bleed and how to do it.